Welcome to Magical Moments with Alena Chapman, the place for you to break free from the norm and celebrate your life, because what we believe in our hearts becomes our reality. This is Magical Moments with Alena Chapman.
Welcome to Magical Moments, and you know this show is all about that ease and betterment in your life, and so you so deserve it. And I am your host, Alena Chapman, and we have one heck of a show for you today. I'm very excited about this show. I love all my shows. You know what? Because the guests are just incredible. But today, my magical moment or my magical nugget is all about, as we're recording this today, there's an election going on. Okay, we are now electing the President of the United States. And as I don't even have to tell you, I really don't. You know how much tension has been going on here and how much, it's like we're voting for a football game almost. You know, the sides are drawn and everybody is rawing and, going rah, 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 or they're booing the other side. And it's just, there's so much tension between the two. In all my years of growing up, I don't remember this. Not that I'm terribly old. We won't go there. But I just don't remember this. I don't remember people unfriending people on Facebook because of who they were voting for. I don't remember people not talking on the street because of who they were voting for. I don't remember the animosity and everything felt. And the deep feeling of how whoever we are voting for is going to help or hurt our country. We always felt a little bit of that, but never to this extent. So I wanted to talk about that in my magical moment, because if I didn't, I'm missing a whole big part of Americana right now. And I started thinking, I put a post out yesterday, and I started thinking about all the times in my life and when I thought I had all the answers, and also all the times in my life when all my answers were not working. The way I was doing it wasn't working, or the way I was doing it was so hard, or the way I was doing it was creating an island around me because I was not, I was just deleting people out because they didn't believe what I believed. So that's when I said, wait, there's something not right here. And you really do have to step back and you have to say, wait a minute. And with all of us always saying we have trust in something bigger than ourselves. I hear it all the time. Don't you trust that there's something bigger going? Yes, there is. And this is the time where you have to believe it. I've had times in my life when things were just so incredibly bad, where I didn't know which way to turn. And that's when I learned what it truly means to have faith. And by the way, faith is always a seeking of truth. And to surrender. Oh, gosh, that word, surrender. How do you do surrender? All right. So let's talk about surrender really quick in this little magical nugget of ours, because I think it's going to help you. And my guest today is also going to help us with this, with mindfulness during this time. But right now, surrender. What do I mean by surrender? Well, you have to trust in that higher source, whatever that is for you. And if that is true, and if you really do have that faith, even if it's that everything always does work out for the best, then you can do this. And it's really taking a deep breath. I've done my part. I've done what I can do. Surrendering it up to the universe and saying these words, folks. And the words are, I am wanting the very best for everyone involved. I am looking for the highest best for our country, the highest best for all its people, the highest best for everyone involved. So may it be. Amen. And then let it go with all the faith you can have. It's hard. Well, maybe it's not. We're tired. We're tired. But if you can do that, I have seen miracles happen. Now, here's the thing. Things might not turn out just the way you thought they should, because we are not supposed to know. We don't always know everything. Surprise, surprise. But I guarantee that it will be for the highest good. And it'll come in a miraculous way. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. But you have to surrender and you have to let it go. And if you can do that in this situation, then it doesn't matter what happens in your life. Because you can then do it any time. And let me tell you, it is a miraculous feeling. Now, I have a wonderful guest for you today. This is all a day on how to breathe. I love it. All right. I have Mr. Pandit Dasa, and he is a mindful leadership expert, author, and motivational keynote speaker. His inspirational speeches aim to create a more mindful workplace and culture that increases productivity and improves retention. Don't we all need a little retention? He encourages leadership and coworkers to appreciate and celebrate the success and contributions of others. This attitude fosters trust, enhances teamwork, and greatly impacts employees' performance. He emphasizes the importance of leading without ego, folks. That ego thing. And highlights the importance of cultivating self-awareness and personal growth and development. All right, so Pandit Dasa has spoken to many Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies. And listen to this. This is big. Google, NASA, Citibank, IBM, State Farm, Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, Kellogg's, wow, Cadillac, Nationwide Insurance, Whirlpool, SAP, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, AMC Theaters, JP Morgan Chase, the World Bank, World Government Summit. And it goes on, guys. I could go on and on and on, but we only have an hour. This is incredible. With this, I want to bring him on right now. And also, there's a little surprise, which really gives him the expertise in mindfulness. So with that, I'd like to bring in Pandit Dasa. Hello.
Hi, Alena. Thank you so much for this warm welcome.
Oh, I am so happy to have you on. And you are such a delightful person. This is going to be so fun. So, all right. So let's begin. You know, I didn't mention it because I wanted it to kind of be a surprise, but you're a monk, aren't you?
Well, I was a monk for 15 years, but I haven't been one for the last 6 years. And yes, you are allowed to leave the monastic life.
Oh, is it? No, that is a question that people ask. I understand why you answer that. People think once you're a monk, you're always. But, you know, in some ways, that's true. Once you're a monk, those tools, those skills, those ways of being, they follow you into your life, correct?
Yeah, my saying is once a monk, always a monk, at least to some degree, you know?
I totally understand.
You can't just completely walk away from something that a lifestyle that you led for 15 years, morning, afternoon, and evening. It wasn't like I was a part-time monk. You know, it was a full-time thing. You lived in a monastery, you slept in a monastery,
wow.
You meditated every day for a couple of hours. So it's not something you walk away from after that much time, you know?
And this was a Tibetan Buddhist monk, correct? Am I correct?
Actually, no. It was more from the Hindu tradition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just assumed I should never do that.
You know,
That's wonderful.
100% of the time, people assume that, like literally 100% of the time, because I think, you know what's happened? Is I think the Buddhist monks have become more acclimated into Hollywood movies.
Yes, they have. They
and the
have.
Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama. Yeah.
You know, people who think monk, they think Buddhist monk. It's like an immediate sort of a thing, you know? It's like when you think of like cereal, you think of like Kellogg's, you know?
Yes, I agree. All right. So for our listeners, could you put a little bit of a definition between the Hindu monk and a Buddhist, the differences, and even a couple similarities? That would be nice too.
Sure. I mean, I think there's quite a few. I think we'd have to get more into sort of like the philosophy or theology behind it in terms of the difference. In terms of the lifestyle, they can be very similar, right? The similarities are that they're both in the renounced sort of order of life. That means they're living in a communal monastic setting, spending a lot of time meditating, usually, you know, not having families generally.
Mm-hmm.
Their life is not, you know, they don't have much money, probably don't have any money. They depend upon the monastery for their maintenance, and they spend their time kind of like studying, meditating, and serving the community around them. So those are the sort of the similarities. It's a simple lifestyle based on service and meditation and, you know, self-reflection and awareness. The differences can be more philosophical in that, from my understanding, and I don't want to speak for all of Buddhism because then there may be some people like, hey, wait, that's not what I believe.
Right.
You know,
I understand.
But the basic, my understanding is that, you know, within the Hindu tradition, it's more theistic.
Okay.
There is a deity that you actually like worship. And again, it's from my understanding, in Buddhism, there may not necessarily be a deity, like a supreme deity that you worship.
Okay. All right. I get it.
That's a basic level, and there may be many other things as well. Like some of the meditation practices are similar because, you know, Buddhism did come from Buddha, who was born in India. So he was probably a Hindu.
Yes, yeah, probably, yeah.
You know, just like
you would say.
So yeah, so there's a lot of similarities there. Just like, you know, I guess like, you know, Christ, he was Jewish, right? And then
Jewish, Essene. He studied with the Essenes for a while, they say. There's just so many different, you know, and they say he even studied yoga and things like that, and some of the Buddhists. I think he studied everything. You know?
I've heard that.
Yeah. And it makes sense. It makes total sense when you listen to whatever he wrote or what we hear that he wrote or said. It just makes sense because you'll hear little bits of it and everything. So, yeah, it's very interesting. So, all right. So in this, as you're coming, now that you're not a monk, how, well, you're right now with the times. What are you seeing? What are you seeing with all this election? What are you seeing with people? How are they reacting to the relationships between people? What are you observing as a monk?
Well, you know, one thing is obviously 2020 in itself has been a really stressful year. Obviously, for the big reason is the pandemic.
Yes.
And as a result of that, our social life has been restricted and limited, and that is stressing us out. The other thing that's stressing us out because of that is now we're stuck at home, working from home, and that's sort of the topic I address mostly when I speak in corporations right now, is how to handle that work-life balance while you're trying to work from home and you've got your whole family at home, and now you're, you know, you love your family, but not 24/7, 7 days a week, always with you, you know?
I think we are not used to having that, you know?
No, that's a little too much love for anybody to handle. You know?
It is. Or even for those who are home and they have no one. And they're maybe very outgoing, or they're used to the workplace for their whole feeding their soul, you know, and now they're stuck at home and they're alone. That's another hard one. I think that's even harder in some ways.
That is, you're right. That's a great point. There's a lot of folks that are extroverted like myself, and right now it's just like, you know, not that many friends around. So that is a great point. So I think the work from home and not being able to socialize has added so much stress to our life. And on top of all of this uncertainty and anxiety, now we have the elections that come up. So, like, if the pandemic hadn't done enough for our stress, depression, anxiety, like, we have, like, the biggest circus has come to town.
Yeah.
The circus of the century has basically come to town. And that's causing so much anxiety and stress, and obviously it's affecting relationships. It's causing people to disagree with family members or friends or colleagues or whatever it may be, as politics can have that sort of a divisive sort of mood to it, and especially nowadays, I think it's even more so.
Even now, yes. Very much so.
And I think that, while all this is happening, our stress levels are really, really increasing. Uncertainty, anxiety, all of this is increasing. And I think that, the way I'm sort of looking at it and what I'm kind of encouraging folks to do is just to keep one thing in mind, that, we have to realize and recognize that we are all different. That means we're going to think differently. We're going to behave differently.
Yes.
And we are all neighbors because we are all stuck on this tiny little bloop bubble of a planet, which is one speck of dust, which is basically as big as a grain of sand in the bigger scheme of the universe.
I know, isn't that amazing?
We're all living on this one grain of sand together.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two choices. Either we can judge each other and fight with each other and argue with each other, which is what we've been doing.
So, Pandit, with being a monk, you have a really good grasp on the understanding of the mind. Am I correct?
I would like to think that I do have a decent grasp on the mind. Of course, the mind is one of those things, like a wild monkey, that I don't think anybody has a full grasp on.
I do understand that. Well, can you shine some light of what you do understand about the mind?
Well, one thing that I've really kind of learned about the mind is that it functions a lot like a smart device. Like, we all have a few of these. And the thing is with our smart devices, that when we have too many apps open on them, it slows down the smart device and it drains the battery. And, and the question I like to ask, and I like to let people think about this question, is how many apps do you think are open in your mind right now? Right?
That's a good question. I'm pondering that. Now, right now, I'm very focused. I'm on you. I want to hear you. I'm listening intently. But let's go back in time. Let's just a little bit. And this morning, as I was getting ready to come to the radio station, I had to get my child to school. I had to get forms that had to be filled out and scanned to another place. I had to get that all set. I had to get myself ready for the radio show. And, I have to tell you, Pandit, at first I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like running like a rabbit. And then you know what I did? I actually said, this is ridiculous. I am pushing so hard. I don't feel calm. I am not in my place. Something has to go. And I closed one of my apps. I thought, okay, I'm going to put these forms in the mail later. It's just going to have to wait. I'm going to take some time, get myself together, feed the dogs. What a concept. Yes. And I closed my app. You know what I mean? I knew this was too much. I don't need to be like a chicken with his head cut off. I don't need to have my mind focused in so many different apps. Close them down. So, is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. And also, so the thing is that the problem with our mind is that it's got so many apps open that we don't even recognize which apps are open in the moment. Because there may be a lot of stuff in the background that's just been running for days and weeks and months. Like on your phone, the oldest app that you have open probably is a couple weeks old, or maybe 3 weeks. You haven't closed out, maybe your banking app or whatever. But the thing is, our mind has apps open from years ago and decades ago. Like, if something and our mind has this tendency to focus more on the painful and difficult situations and the negative things that have happened to us in the past, 5, 10, 20 years ago, and it keeps that app open. And the interesting thing is, it won't consult you before opening it. So you could be sitting at the beach on vacation, all of a sudden it could just, boom, pop up with this app of something horrible that happened 15 years ago, and now you can't even enjoy your vacation because your mind said, I'm going to open this app up for you. It's like you have a Netflix account and then letting somebody else control it.
Oh, wow. Yes. That's the subconscious mind. Yes. Yeah. And you know what? And you don't know that app is open, but then the thoughts start to change. The words you say start to change. Sabotage may come in.
Yeah.
into your life just from that app of that old experience you haven't healed from or haven't really learned the higher lesson from. And it comes into it just seeps into your life. Am I correct?
Yeah, totally. And every time it comes back in, it just like on a smartphone, it drains the battery. It drains our emotional and mental energy and battery. And, too often, we just don't know how to close it out. We just don't know what to do. But the thing is that, with like the practice of mindfulness, it is possible to learn to deal with these apps in our mind, because if we don't, they're going to just like what happens is, like if something stressful happened, let's say a month ago, now the thing is that, and that was all, caused us some stress and anxiety, but how many times have we replayed that in our mind and increased, doubled, tripled, quadrupled the stress?
Yeah.
Because of our own replay. And that's why I firmly believe that most of our stress and anxiety is self-induced. It's not another person. Okay, somebody did cause us pain, but how many times have we caused ourselves pain by allowing ourselves to replay that thing over and over and over again? And that's an important thing to think about.
That's very important. And Pandit, what I have found so often with people or with everyone is that when we replay it, we mull it. We mull it in our mind. Meaning what we do is we change it. We add perceptions to it. We actually change the whole thing and make it 100 times worse if we let it just, and we end up like cycling downward with it. We change. It's amazing. It's like we create the monster from just one little incident, and it gets worse and worse.
Exactly. We add new dialogue during the replay.
Yes.
And it's usually much worse. And it's interesting, like, how did we get to this point is a question to ask. So, like, how did we let our mind get so out of control? Well, another way to look at the mind, I feel, is imagine like a new puppy, right? It's cute and it's nice, but let's say you didn't give it a minute of training. By the time that puppy is fully grown, it's going to be chaotic. It could even be dangerous.
Yeah.
Because we haven't trained it. So, I've heard from from some of the texts that I used to read that the mind can become one's best friend or one's worst enemy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I like that quote. That's a good one. True.
And unfortunately, I think for many of us, we've allowed our mind because we haven't trained it. And nobody's taught us. Nobody's talked to us about the concept of training the mind. So we just let it do its thing, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more out of control. And, that's a problem, because the mind we have now is the mind same mind is just going to keep getting worse unless we do something to tame it and to train it.
How much do you think at this present time in history that we have just let our minds get to the very worst of things? Do you feel like right now we have a lot of minds going amok?
I definitely think so. And, obviously there are many positive things also to technology and social media, for sure, allowing us to stay in touch with each other and being informed. But I think our mind is getting overdosed. It's getting flooded beyond its ability to handle the data and information that it's receiving. It's just not ready to handle that much data. We're looking at dozens of people's profiles each day, comparing ourselves to our friends or colleagues, getting, we feel happy when we see maybe someone else not doing so well, and then we get sad when we see someone else having a really good time.
Oh, that's sad. It's backwards.
And so exactly. It's backwards. And so I think that because of where technology has taken us, I think it's revving our mind up. It's like when you step on the gas in your car and the meter goes to red. Yeah. I feel like that's what we're doing to our mind, is we're revving it up into the red zone
and keeping it there.
It's not healthy for us.
No,
it's not healthy for us and for our mind.
Well, no, because it feeds the mind monsters. We take that and we're You know, I once knew a person who had a very high anxiety, and because they suffered with this high anxiety all the time, you know, they just wouldn't allow themselves to let it go at all or even learn how to control it. They ended up with adrenal fatigue, which means that the adrenal gland will misfire at any given moment, like when you're sleeping or when you're meditating. It just misfires, which then releases all the chemicals of fight or flight into your system at any time, and your heart will start racing really, really fast because it's misfiring. Now, I feel like with us, we kind of are letting our minds just get these monsters, and we're feeding it and feeding it and feeding it with social media, and we're feeding it with more news and more everything just to feed the thoughts that we have inside already. And that monster just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more out of control. Am I correct?
Yeah, totally. You know, I heard one monk talking about it, but I believe it's coming from a Native American tradition that we all have two dogs, the good dog and the bad dog inside of us. And, you know, which one's going to win? It's the one that you feed the most.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And so we are feeding that bad dog.
We're feeding the bad dog. Yeah.
Bad dog, and we're feeding it junk food on top of that.
Yeah, lots of candy and chips. Yeah, we got to talk more about that. We need to take a break. And for everyone out there, this is very interesting. In the next session, we're going to start talking about how do we control that bad dog, and how do we turn that bad dog into the good dog? Or in the old days, I used to see the angel, the one bad angel and the one good angel. How do we make that bad angel a good angel? We will be right back. This is Magical Moments.
Welcome back. You're listening to Magical Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you find ease and betterment with every episode. Download more on your favorite podcast platform. Now, here's Alena.
Welcome back to Magical Moments. Boy, today, are you really learning some of the skills that are going to get your bad dog into a good dog, and most of all, to start getting a little peace. So let's talk a little bit more, Pandit, about now that we've stated all the problems and we know that we are feeding a giant monster that just is voracious, how do we start to get control over this? Because it's never too late and we can do it, but we need the tools. So what do you have in your pocket that you can help us with?
Well, I think that, first of all, I like the point you made that it's never too late, right? It's never too late to train our mind. And I think first of all, it is just, there's many things that are coming to mind of what we can do. You know, first thing is having some kind of awareness. So that means when we catch ourselves thinking of something negative or worrying about the future, which we can't control.
Yes.
I heard another monk say something that if you can't control a situation, if you can control it, then why worry?
Right.
And if you can't control a situation, then why worry? So there's no third option, by the way. If you can control it, okay, cool. You got it under control. If you can't control it, oh well.
Yeah.
Just sit back and enjoy the ride. One thing is become aware. First of all, is aware that, okay, this thought is starting. As soon as you catch it, before it goes too far in, press the pause button. Like it's a horror movie, like, oh my God, I don't want to watch it. Pause, you know? So recognize, then pause it.
I like
right
that.
There. Now, the thing is, your mind is going to want to keep it going because it likes to go into that space, right? It likes to remember that negativity.
Feels comfortable.
But just say no, no, no. Just like kind of like a dog in your training. No, 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 we're not going to go there because it won't listen right away. It's a pretty interesting process. So you really have to stop it. Fully put the brakes on, and then just take a deep breath and just let it go. And then take a moment to think of something positive that's happening in your life.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be related to that problem at all. I was telling my son that. Instead, just think something you like, period.
Exactly. So it's become aware, so it's awareness, then pausing it, right? Then letting it go, closing that app, releasing it, and then positivity.
I love the app idea.
Positive.
I love that because I love closing my apps actually on my phone. So that's a wonderful, wonderful way to think of your thoughts. I like that. That's very much like Vernon Howard way back. I don't even know if you know who he is. He was a philosopher and a self-improvement way in the 60s and 70s. I think he died in the 90s. He was in the California area, and he had a practice of, he called it self-observation, and he did the same thing, and he did it with judgment when you're walking down the street, or just thoughts that you don't want to think, and you press the button and you think to yourself, do I really want to think that right now? And then change your thought. It's the same kind of principle. I love it. I love seeing that there are so many similarities, that people are all trying to solve this problem with so many different things. So that is a wonderful way. And what if people are on, okay, so let's deal with what's going on right now. You have people out there who are extremely into they are right. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything worse, honest to God, than that I am right, and it doesn't matter what I do. It's the result that matters, and I want to win, and I want my side to win, and we're getting things are happening that have never happened before and shouldn't be allowed, but it's all in that name of being right. And is it causing stress? Of course it is, but it's also feeding a worse animal than worry. It's feeding a fire inside, because that right thing gives you purpose, it gives you passion, it gives you, how do you calm that down? Or do you even want to? Do we even want to touch that animal?
Well, I think that one way, a huge part of mindfulness practice is learning to not be overly affected by the behavior and speech and actions of others.
I love this. Yes.
And so that's much, much, much easier said than done. However, the thing is that when we let others influence our behavior, so if someone is aggressive, it's my way or the highway, and then we react to them in an equally aggressive manner, basically we've given them the remote control to our emotions.
Yes.
We need to take that back. Say, okay, you're choosing to act like that. I'm not giving in to that. And again, it's hard when someone might be in your face. That's almost like, it's almost impossible. But, that's a very advanced level of, monkhood. I don't even think I'm at that level. But
yeah.
But really, at least it's a reminder to ourselves, I'm not going to engage with that because it's not going to lead to anything good. Nothing good is going to come out of that. It's only fueling the fire. It's only going to breed more aggression and anger and frustration.
Yes.
I'm not going to engage with that. It's only going to cloud my intelligence. That kind of energy clouds the intelligence.
Yes.
And then clouds our ability to make rational decisions. And then we'll end up doing something irrational, and that energy will grow and affect the people around us. And then before you know it, everyone's yelling and screaming. So ideally, if we can, think about what you want to do, who you want to vote for, do your duty, but without engaging in all the argumentation. It's okay to have healthy debates. It's okay to talk about it as long as you don't think it's going to turn into a fist fight at the end of it,
Right. And a healthy debate, we don't see those on TV. A healthy debate is, because I love to debate, but it's not when you are feeding a fire inside you. It's not when it's more of a sharing of ideas that with someone who might feel a little bit differently, but there's nothing, there's not that I am right in it. And that can be a very dangerous game to play. But when you're dealing with someone who feels that way, I really do feel that it's good for you to just step back and breathe and say, wait, is this something I really want to enter into? Is there any, like you said, is there any good in this? Am I really going to change this person's mind? Or can I just do what I can do? And then let it go. I did it. It's done. I can't do any more. Let it go. Arguing's not going to help. I mean, it's that incredible awareness and being able to step back and really physically step back. Just step back from it and allow yourself to say, this is not what I need right now. And I think, but that is hard for a lot of people. And is there a breathing exercise that they can add to this? Because they got to get back into reality or their own present moment. What kind of breathing could they do to get them back into that present moment, that calm, that I'm centered, I can handle this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of breathing exercises, and I think that also just like if you feel like you might be going into like a family dinner where there's going to be some relative who's just going to be overly vocal.
Yes.
Right? Let's say you're going into that setting, or maybe a colleague is like that. It could even help to visualize yourself in that setting, visualize their mood, and visualize yourself not reacting.
I love that. And do this prior to going.
Yeah, exactly, prior to it. And if it's in the middle of it, you have the free will to excuse yourself from that intense situation, and just you can walk away from it.
I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. And it's a wonderful tool. And you can even see yourself in how you're handling it and calming the whole situation even. Because you have the time to practice, which is wonderful in that visualization. Yeah. I have, so Uncle Joe, I don't have an Uncle Joe. I'm using this as an example, folks. So if I'm going to a Thanksgiving dinner and Uncle Joe is just, oh my gosh, he is just so full of fire and he knows what everyone should believe and he's going to go spouting. And it triggers something in me. And I can look at what that triggers, but I can also visualize and say, okay, that's gonna cause some problems. So what can I do? And I visualize how I'm going to calm down the whole, am I going to leave? Am I going to change the subject? Am I going to change the subject? And if it doesn't go, am I going to leave? You have the power to visualize what you're going to do so that when it really happens, you're not left high and dry with just reacting, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that we always have that power, and we just can't forget that, that we don't want to get sucked into other people's moods and, energy. I
think so. I think that's what it is. It is taking yourself out from being the victim, out from being the person who has to react. It's really saying, wait a minute. This is not my battle. This is not what I need to do today. I just want to step back from this. And I want to have some control in this situation for me. I can't control Uncle Joe, but I can totally control how I want to respond to this situation and how do I want to feel in this situation. Yeah,
exactly. And if it's like a healthy discussion, then we want to make sure that we're able to listen.
Yes.
Without formulating a response as we're listening. So we want to listen to understand and not listen to respond. Because when we're already formulating a response, we stop listening. Our brain can't do two things at once like that. So
That's true.
We think we can. I mean, if we could do two things at once, then texting and driving would not be an issue. But
that's funny. That's true.
It's totally not be an issue. But we're not able to do that. And like someone is midway through a sentence and we're thinking of a response, which is pretty natural for us to do. But like I catch myself, I'm like, wait, I'm going to keep listening. I got to keep listening. Be quiet. I got to keep listening,
Yeah.
So, listening to understand as opposed to listening to respond. If a person is having a calm discussion, then you can hear what they're saying, where they're coming from. You're like, okay, I see why you feel this way. Great. This is how I feel. Great.
Yeah.
And we can still be friends.
And it really does help. I always say it's listening with your heart instead of with your critical mind. And it is very much, if you just open up for understanding, that's your heart, guys. That's your heart. And you do. I actually learned this, Pandit, when I was in high school, and my dad would say, "Why do you always have an answer when I..." And I said, "Well, because there's always a reason." And he would just breathe and walk out of the room. But it did make me think, maybe I need to listen more. And it did open me up to listening more with my heart and understanding, and not jumping in with my best thought of the day. You know, it is opening. But, you know, that affords us so many gifts when we do that. Number one, we open ourselves to a level of trust from the person who's talking to us. You know, there's a lot of good feeling that comes from somebody who really listens to another person, and they feel it. So you get that wonderful gift. You also get the wonderful gift that your blood pressure doesn't go up, and that you actually get a higher understanding of what was said. When you put these practices, this mindfulness and other practices, some of the practices I've been doing with the breathing, the little short meditations you can run into the bathroom and do when you're stressed, this stuff really helps you to have, it raises you to a different level in your life. And it's a nice level.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, it's a level of feeling like you are in control, and you know, of yourself, and that you're breathing. My gosh, your abdominal muscles actually are open most of the time instead of tense and tight. Your shoulders are relaxed and back, and your mind has clarity. I mean, Pandit, when we're talking about some of these, I know you want to do, I would love for you, they've heard my meditation. Do you have a meditation for them when they're just filled with these, you know, that bad dog seems to be acting up? So how do we get a meditation that just gets us back to that core that we want to be in?
Yeah, I definitely have some meditation. I mean, what kind of monk would I be if I didn't, right?
Isn't that the truth? I love it. Would you do it? Yeah, I would love it. I think right now, I think that would be an excellent thing to do. It'll be a short one, but my gosh, let's do it.
Like a minute or two?
Like a minute, yeah.
Like a minute. Okay. So first thing, we can just sit comfortably, close our eyes, and first of all, just feel the weight of our feet pushing down into the floor, and keep all of our focus there. Just for a moment, to bring the mind to one point. And now let's go ahead and take 5 deep breaths. And I want each inhalation to be such that it fills up the lungs completely and straightening the back as we inhale. So lungs are filling up completely, much deeper than the kind of breathing we generally do. Probably we're taking in 10 times as much oxygen. And when we exhale, I want us to exhale thoroughly and completely, emptying out the lungs. So 4 more to go. Deep breath in, fill up the lungs completely, expanding them. You probably can take in a little bit more breath because the lungs have had a chance to expand. And as you exhale, thoroughly and completely empty out your lungs. This is doing a few things. It's releasing stress and tension from the body. Continue to breathing. It's releasing tension and anxiety from the mind. And the third very important thing this is doing, it's also strengthening the capacity of our lungs, because we know that COVID is a respiratory illness. And if our lungs are strong, we have a better chance of fighting it in case we do, get it somehow or other. So continue to take the deep breathing. Now I want you to do the last couple of breaths just through your nasal passages. Cool breath goes in, fills up your lungs completely. And when you exhale, become aware of the breath is warmer than the inhalation. So the exhalation is warm, inhalation's cool. One more deep breath in, and exhale slowly, feeling the warm breath leaving your body through the nose. This is a good practice we can do before we start our work day, before a meeting, once the day is over, before going to sleep. And now you can slowly open your eyes. And this is a short beginner meditation that we can do throughout the day. Like we have 3 meals a day. Why not do this 3 times a day for a minute or 2 each?
How wonderful. And then when you move forward, you have more peace. It also gives you a status quo to aim for. So when something comes into your life that disturbs or someone is in your face or something, you'll say, wait a minute, this is not where I want to be. And it helps to know where you do want to be. You know what I mean? It takes away the unknown. It gives you a goal and you can get back there so easily. This is wonderful. How can people learn more about you if they want to reach out?
Well, I think there's 2 ways that people can find me easily. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so just look me up, Pandit, Pandit, Dasa, Pandit Dasa, and motivational speaker. And my recent book, which is called Closing the Apps, which we talked a lot about, the mind.
Yes.
So it's a new book called Closing the Apps, How to Be Mindful at Work and at Home. And in it, I talk a lot about the things that we talked about today, what the mind is, how to communicate better with our colleagues, with our family members, how to appreciate one another. And there's a website for that. It's called closingtheapps.com.
Yes. Okay.
And that'll take you right to my website where the book is. So the website also has the different speeches I give and other motivational videos that I've posted on there. So closingtheapps.com is a good way to find the book. My previous book, which I talked about being a monk, that one's also listed on there, and everything else that, you want to find out
wonderful.
about.
And do you have any last things you'd like to say as people await these results of this very long election that we've had? I feel like this election has been going on forever.
Yeah.
Personally.
No, I think what I'd like to close with is something that you started with, like knowing that you've done your part and now just let it go. You've done your responsibility. Focus on the journey, the process. The end result is not in our control. You've done your part, and now just accept. The sooner we accept the result, the more peaceful we'll be.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Yes,
surrender.
And thank you. Surrender, that wonderful word, surrender. I love that word. And for everyone out there, I've got a 7-day wonderful program that's free out on Soul Manifesto. And by this time that I am founder of Soul Manifesto. And so with that 7-day, it's how to reclaim your inner peace. And that wonderful meditation you got during this show, which was awesome, you can start to learn many different ways that you can use these different meditations in your life, what one fits the best for you, and just have fun experimenting and playing with feeling that wonderful feeling of feeling grounded in your core and at peace. And so if you're interested in that, please visit soulmanifesto.com, and it's right there. Also, there's the Green Terra, another free group where we're talking about all these spiritual things that always bring you more peace and betterment in your life. We're talking about relationships this week. How do we light that wonderful passion back in a relationship? Not just romantic, but any relationship, friends, family. How do we ignite that fire back in there? So a lot of things are happening at Soul Manifesto. Take a look. It's a new website. We got lots of things going on. And if you're not part of the community, please join, because it's all about you and your betterment and how you're growing and how you're evolving. But just like Pandit Dasa said, and I say, do your part this time of year with the wonderful election. Do what you can and then let it go. It's done. And always put the intention for the best possible higher result that we need in this nation. Okay? As always, folks, spirit is love. And if we have too many apps open and our mind is in chaos and we're feeding a monster, we can't have that love. But when we open up and center, we start to gain the love, and then we're with spirit. Namaste, everyone. Love you. Bye-bye.
This has been Magical Moments with Alena, featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.